Yes, Yuya here again, bringing to you Thunderground Thursday, shaking the ground up. In this segment, we're going to speak about the value and purpose of a mission statement and an accompanying action statement as specified in solutions for dysfunctional family relationships. Here we go.
Action speaks louder than words. Action speaks louder than words. Action speaks louder than words. Action, action, action. Action speaks louder than words. Action, action, action. I get physical. 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 I get physical.
Yeah, here we are again. Like I said, another segment of Thunderground Thursday. And, you know, this music that plays before I begin is not just to provide filler in between the places of my words, as to give seeds of inspiration where silent lies. It actually takes me to a certain place, reminds me that we are existing on different planes concurrently. So action speaks louder than words, because oftentimes people will respond to what they see quicker than they will respond to what they hear. And we get physical because we also get mental. We also get spiritual. We spark on multiple levels at the same time. And sometimes we get so lost in all of the wonderful feelings and sparks of inspiration that the knowledge and the information provides to us that we neglect to get physical. One of the dangers of the information age. So much information is available that we can become inundated with information. Whereas once we were drowning in the paralysis of our own ignorance, we now find ourselves drowning in the paralysis of our own knowing. Constantly looking to dissect, analyze, and extrapolate the messages and the profound theories that exist in each one of life's experiences, only extrapolating those theories so that we can share them with other people to self-aggrandize. So it gets very dangerous sometimes when you know too much, or your knowing is not balanced with doing. And in this world, you were given a human body, a physical body, because you are supposed to exist on that plane as well. You have a root chakra for a reason. Just like you have a crown chakra, you also have a root chakra. And part of what this show represents is our responsibility as spiritually mature adults. It's not just enough to get deep and unplug from the matrix or unplug from societal systems that we notice and feel do not serve us or our people. It's not just about that, because one of the things that we have to be sensitive to is what we're leaving for our children. So often I speak to people and they have desires to just totally drop out of society, totally drop out of political and governmental situations that seem to be no more than a hassle, extracting just enough from their monthly budget to throw them off, but not enough to send them into poverty, just like a pest. Just like when you're in New York City and you get those tickets, sometimes parking tickets, you get a parking ticket for $140. Ridiculous amounts. You'll be in certain towns and get a parking ticket for a meter and maybe $15. But you have a $140 ticket which won't send you into ruin, but it's just annoying enough to throw your budget off. So sometimes that's just enough to make people crack and say, you know what? I don't want to be a part of this anymore. But when you go live in the middle of the woods in your cabin and you turn everything off and you completely jump off of the grid, are you ensuring that you're leaving something for your children? Or will they have to fend for themselves in an ever-changing, in an ever-devolving and expanding societal construct that seems to encroach upon every space, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically, that one seeks to set up their flag? There is always a possibility of encroachment, and if one does not guard themselves with the right-minded plan of action, a right-minded objective, and reason for existence beyond survival, then they run the risk of losing everything that they've strived and worked for. So this will be a show that will not be very long, because when it comes to Thunderground Thursday, I prefer to speak a little and then do a lot. And of course, with all of the other shows that I present, I never speak on things that I have not implemented in my own world. So all of the knowledge and the wisdom and the understanding that I am sharing with you is integrative knowledge, wisdom, and understanding from experiential experiences and occurrences. Integrated, meaning that it is a part of my world, part of my life. It is a part of my psyche, because it is things that, or they are things that I have applied, methods that I have used and implemented and tweaked. Okay? So in the book Solutions for Dysfunctional Family Relationships, I spoke about people developing mission statements for their families. And this just doesn't have to happen on the collective level of a family. You can develop a mission statement for yourself as an individual, which I strongly encourage and advise you to do. And I know it's difficult sometimes if one is not clear on what their life purpose is. If they haven't gotten those readings and tapped into that level of knowing, then sometimes that personal and spiritual fulfillment kind of reigns over as a thorn in their side and doesn't really allow them to think about what their mission should be or the construct and framework of your mission. A mission statement doesn't just speak to purpose and objective, but a mission statement speaks to rules of engagement or culture. Okay? Now, rules are one way to say something, but sometimes when you start using words like rules, people get turned off. They want to drop out. Oftentimes, instead of using the word rules, it's better just to say the way we do things. You know? So a mission statement speaks to how things are done, who they're done for, who they're done to, what are the expected outcomes, and why. These are the things that are needed on the individual level. These are the things that are needed on the familial level. And of course, these are the things that are needed on the professional level. Oftentimes, I hear people speak to me about businesses that they want to create and start, and they don't have a mission statement. Problem. So what's the problem with that? Not only is it easy to lose focus without a mission statement, but every time someone asks you about your business, you're going to find yourself saying something different. And eventually you might even find yourself rambling at a very key point and moment when you should be explaining what it is that you're about, or what it is that your business or even your family is about. It's so much easier to, if someone says, well, hey, what is your business about? To just say, well, hey, here, let me give you some of our literature. Keep it real simple, so that way you don't have to worry about explaining things in a different way. Now, the same thing occurs for you as an individual. You know, sometimes you'll find yourself in situations where you have to really reference and check what you're about and what you're doing. And you may find yourself engaged in activities that don't really speak to your mission. They don't speak to your objective, and they certainly don't speak to your divine purpose. Obviously, this is a problem. In steps the mission statement. That's why it becomes so important. And if you're developing a family and you have a familial mission statement, but you begin with an individual or personal mission statement, what will happen is that you'll be able to really understand what your lane and your role is within the collective, and what priority you should place on the different dimensions of your role, or the different roles that you may take on. You may have to do several things, especially in the familial setup. You're going to be more than one thing. You may be a mother, and you may be a mate. You may be a mother, and you may be a daughter. You may be a father. You may be an uncle. You may be a business owner. You may be a community leader. And establishing that mission statement for yourself helps you to understand where each one should fall in, which one should be considered first before decisions are made about other things. For instance, sometimes someone will go through a situation where they're now approached with new job opportunities, new career opportunities. And in a healthy setup, a lot of times people will say, okay, you know what? Before I make a decision on this, let me go discuss it with my family. Well, that gives you an idea of where their priority roles lay out. Okay. In my family, I'm the boss. In any situation, I'm the boss. But especially with my family, I'm the boss. And as the boss, my number one mission and priority, essential priority, is to be the best servant that I can be. Okay? So a lot of times as the boss, I'll have to make decisions that may not be popular decisions so that everyone can have their needs serviced as they should be. If I wasn't moving as a boss or didn't have that in the forefront of my mission, I may start serving people's wants because I may not understand the priority in which things are supposed to lay out. Because I have a clear and direct mission, clear and direct objectives written out with my own hand many years ago, before I even had a family. I knew what I wanted to represent in my community. I knew what I wanted to be, and I knew what type of people I wanted in my life. So I had to establish a mission plan and an action plan for myself that spoke to my constant evolution, progression, and the need to put myself through my own rites of passage. So I would constantly be growing, so I can make myself worthy of those feminine counterparts that I envisioned as a little boy. Okay. So of course I learned, how to fix things, how to build things, how to break things, and all the different things that I thought would make a full and accomplished Imotepian man. Paul Robeson being one of my greatest inspirations. So sometimes you may have an internal mission statement and objective like that. It may start that way, but it can evolve. It may start with just you wanting a qualified mate and wanting to be qualified yourself. And then it may change over time. It may be now the objective is about community leadership, community rearing. Your objective may be just to accumulate a lot of assets. Okay, it could be that, but when you have that, it helps to simplify your life. Oftentimes, I speak to people through consultations, and they have a lot of problems focusing. There's so many different things that they have talents for and talents toward, but don't know when and how to apply them, and certainly can't get their minds wrapped around which one to choose first. A mission statement helps with that. It helps you to know what comes first, what is really a hobby, and what really speaks to your career and your longevity and the liberty of yourself and your family. So when you're establishing said mission statement from an individual level, okay, for men and women, it's slightly different. But in reality, the individual mission statement, you can almost ask yourself the same type of questions. Now, the way you will answer those questions will be different. They better be different. Your objectives, aims, and your methodologies should be different based on your gender. If they're not, well, that's another show. But that speaks to some of the issues and solutions for dysfunctional family relationships. Okay. So one of the first things you want to look at when establishing a familial, personal, or even professional mission statement, you want to answer the why. Okay. And the why is, why am I here? Okay. The why speaks to my purpose in doing whatever it is that I'm doing. Why am I interested in moving into the place of existence? And that means transitioning from the place of survival. Why am I interested in doing that? Why do I not just want to survive and get along? But the why speaks to, what it is exactly that I want to provide for myself. I want to provide for my community. I want to provide for my family. Okay. And to really answer that intelligently, all you have to do is just really think about the first reasoning that comes to you for existence. The existence of anything, even if it's a family. If you are a man and you want a family, or you already have one and you're getting ready to write this statement for your family or with your family, the first thing you want to look at is, well, why did we begin this to begin with? Okay, did I marry for love as a man? Did I marry, because it was a strategic move? Did I marry because my wife was pregnant and I felt it was the honorable thing to do, or my girlfriend was pregnant and I felt it was honorable? Did I marry because I wanted to emulate the greatest sciences of the deities and archetypes and my ancient traditions? So there could be many reasons, and of course they're personal. Only you know that. Certainly do not adopt anyone else's reasons. I'll give you a good example. I had a friend who called me maybe about a year ago, because we hadn't spoken in a while, and he called me to let me know he had just gotten engaged and he was getting married. And he was all excited and everything like that. And he said, I'm getting ready to get engaged. I'm married. And I just wanted to let you know, man, I got to send you an invitation to the wedding. And, so I usually Mr. Thundercloud in my circle. So I wasn't necessarily excited, because I felt, well, you two old people getting married. What's so exciting about that? You're not going to have any children, because neither one of you even want children. So basically, you're trying to make sure that no one else has sex with this woman you really like. Because I asked him, I said, well, why are you getting married? What for? Because he had always said he would never get married. He was just really against it and enjoyed being with women and being in a committed relationship, but he felt marriage wasn't for him. So I said, well, what are you getting married for? And he said, because I love her. And I said, that's what she told you to say if somebody asked you. But why are you getting married? What is the reasoning? You giving me an answer like you're a girl. So he kept saying, oh man, I love her. I said, okay, well, can we add a reason onto that? And he said, well, she's cool. Okay. So by the time we went through it, he couldn't come up with any other reasons other than he loved her. So I said, you're marrying her for the same reason that she's marrying you. And that's stupid. That means you don't have what you need on the table to provide for this woman emotionally and spiritually if you're marrying and it's an emotional decision. That's okay for her to react and move from emotion because she lives in that intuitive psychic world of emotion. It's cool. And even neurologically, a woman's brain, women have clumps of neurons in their brain tissue that men actually don't have. And researchers have found that these clumps are active 24/7. Just kind of interesting. You know, it gives you some clue as to why, especially in the emotive sense and intuitive sense, women are so much more advanced than us men are. Especially at a much younger age, they begin the process of discerning and reading people, reading energy, learning how to manipulate energy, and down to even, you know, simple things, being flirtatious, knowing when the best time is to ask their parents for something, you know, or how to put their parents in the mood, or how to use terms of affection. And young boys don't have that the same way. So women think differently, which is cool. They're supposed to. You know, if we look different on the outside, we're different on the inside. Okay? So, you know, he couldn't come up with any real reasons. And, you know, I still congratulated him. It's great, you know, because I'm all about love, and especially black love. I'm all about that. So I was all for him, you know, joining in union with this young lady who I also knew, and knew her to be a thorough woman. She's thorough, and she's clean, and she's decent. And, you know, I like kind, decent people. So that was all good. But his reasoning was all jacked up. So we had to really sit down as old friends and really speak about what this new family he was establishing, what it was to represent to the community. What did this union mean for not only those two, but for all of us? To only think of yourself would be pretty selfish. And he was very thankful for the conversation and, of course, for my candidness. And it really helped him to establish a new mission, not only with the family, but even with his own parents, who are very elderly at this point, and things that he felt that the marriage should represent for them and what it should provide for them. So that's part of the why that you want to look at for your own personal self, and, you know, when you're establishing a business, so forth and so on, or for yourself. One of the other things that you want to look at is, again, speaking about the why, you want to look at, well, what do you want to project? We're dealing now with the solar chakra. What identity do you want to project into the world or into the community? Okay. Now, this is on a personal level, but this is also on a familial level. You know, when people see you, people see your family, people see your brand. Consider your family as a brand. What do you want that picture, the mental picture that's conjured, what do you want it to convey? You know, like when we think of the Baldwins, you know, a lot of times people think about trouble. Okay, they go through a lot of hassle. You think of the Jacksons, you think about talent, but also to some degree there's some tragedy, you know. So you want to think about, what is it that your family or you as an individual, what is the statement that your image and your identity is making in the world? Very important. You also want to look at the cipher that you or your family or your business exist in. So this is where we get to the who. Okay, who will be in that cipher? Okay, and more importantly, what are you doing to enrich the people's lives who are in your cipher? How are you adding on and investing in their triumphs, in their victories? Not only now at the moment, you want to look at what you're currently doing for people, because, you know, we live in such an I-centered society, and it's really sad, you know, and a lot of it, I think, has to do with this fast-paced delivery of information. You know, some of it has to do with that, but I find, like, even online, sometimes delivering messages to people is definitely a low level of gratitude, because we're inundated with information. So it's like you don't really think about what people are investing in when they're delivering some information to you, some wisdom to you, the process. You don't think about what they have to go through. You know, you don't think about if someone puts together a video or something like that and puts it on YouTube, you know, you just look at it as anything else. Oh, well, it's just a bunch of free information out there. You may not be thinking about, okay, this person maybe had to record this video at 2 a.m. when the house was quiet, or they don't feel like doing it, but now they got a bunch of followers and it's helping people. Or maybe this person is trying to sell something. They're trying to empower themselves economically. You know, but because we receive so much free information, a lot of times we lose sight of the fact that there is a certain effort that goes behind delivering. Okay, so one of the things that you want to look at is not just what you want from the people who you insert into your cipher, but what you're going to give. I think I said that on a recent show, even, you know, when we're dealing with relationships, going back to the male-female thing, women who come with, you know, sometimes it's like an old trick that some women have been taught to use, given very bad advice by I don't know who, but whoever gave them this advice needs to really be taken care of. But a lot of times when people see that you're industrious, they feel that all they really need to come with is their hands out and their legs open. And that's it. They got their ticket to the party. They're done. Without really realizing that that's an old trick. You know, that's a pretty simple and easy trick. But coming with a heart, an open heart to serve and add on and contribute and build is much more valuable. So that goes for men and women. You know, sometimes men, you know, I have childhood friends, and hopefully they've broken out of this childhood model where as young males, they felt that the size of their genitals was their biggest gift to humanity. You know, they would treat their mates very poorly. And when I would question them on it, they would start speaking about how much their mates are in love with their genitals and what they can do with them. You know, so that's your great contribution to your cipher. That's your great investment in the ground that you stand on. That's a problem. So that's some of the things that you want to look at, again, when establishing said mission statement. Okay, you want to look at exactly what you're providing, and you want to look at exactly who you're providing it to. Okay, very important. Who is your community? Okay. One of the things you also want to look at in terms of establishing your mission statement is what are the determining factors, the determining environmental and social factors that will sustain you or sustain your family or sustain your business. You know, and really, obviously, I keep saying yourself, your family, your business, because really they're all the same thing. You know, if you can run an organization, If you can run a business, you can run a nation. If you can manage and run a family, you can run a business. If you can manage and run and control yourself, you can do the same for your family. So I have to put the slashes in that, okay? Very important. But what you want to look at is what exactly you provide, okay, to the world, and how it may change with an evolving world. Okay, what exactly you will do to serve and produce for yourself, serve and produce for your family, serve and produce within your profession, and will it change as time moves on? Okay, so you want to look at the type of service, the type of production. I've said it before that each family is a factory. Should be. You should be able to come to each family gate and know that you can get something that's specialized. Okay? That's very important. So that means that if you come to my gate for spiritual services and I'm out of town, that any one of my family members should be able to accommodate you. Because that should be the nature of what we provide, and the nature of what we produce, and the nature of how we serve what we consider to be our site for our community. It doesn't mean that people in your homestead can't do other things, but your homestead should be thematic. Very important. Even if it's just at a small level. Okay, we have a peach tree in the backyard, and we grow peaches, and anyone who comes here knows that anyone in the house can pick good peaches for them. Okay, so you want to look at that. So you also want to look at what makes you unique. I know this sounds very cliche, but certainly you want to look at yourself as a divine, and more important, supreme work of art. You must be supreme. You must be. Because you were a sperm cell that outran all of the other cells. So no matter how much you want to see yourself as average, you can't. It's impossible. Okay? At least within the planet and the universe of your father's testicles, you were the special one. Okay? So you want to look at the things that really set you apart as an individual, as a family, as a company. Keep the slashes going in there. And you want to determine this in a very detailed and specialized way. Okay, it will help you to see, it goes back to the discussions we had on character. It will help you to see what your character is. Okay? It will help you to see what roles that you're being served to play or called to play within a community, within a family, within a business. And not only you, but the individuals in your homestead, if we're looking at a collective. Because what you're going to find is that you're going to attract people into your experience that are similar to you. Now, especially if you're building a homestead and all of the children of that homestead have the same genetic blend, meaning same father, same mother, then it's highly likely that you're going to have at least one or two things where you all have the same leaning towards. Like you'll find that people who are musical often come from musical families. You know, people who have high levels of academic achievement oftentimes come from families with people who have above average intelligence. Okay. So you want to start looking at that and really develop a style for yourself and for your family that really addresses that. And it challenges yourself and it challenges the people within your family to recognize that greatness and move beyond it. You can't challenge it if you don't see what makes you unique. Okay. So what you also want to look at is, as an individual and as a family, this one is really important. This is where we kind of get into the economic piece a little bit. You want to look at what kind of affiliations and associations you want to sustain with individuals who provide things for you and your family. Okay, so in this, you're looking at partnerships or barter and trade, economic relationships. So as a family, you want to make decisions like, okay, where do we shop? You know, do we go into fast food restaurants? Do we go into places that are only owned by other individuals in our community? Do I go to places that are only owned, you know, and operated by individuals in my community? Or am I okay with giving my commerce to individuals and organizations outside of those who I consider to be my community? If I have individuals that I cannot acknowledge outside of my community, and if I can see those individuals as competition for my offspring or competition for myself, what sets me apart from those individuals? Aside from, you know, me trying to play some community or ethnic card, you know, like, hey, you should support your own. That's not really getting it. You know, am I really preparing myself and my organization to compete in the global market? Is there anything that I can do for the global market and for the greater society that plays on my competition's weaknesses? Or is there anything that I can do, is any service or product that I can provide at a better rate? Can I get it to you in a more swift manner? Can I give it to you in a way where it's more affordable? Okay, so you want to start looking at those type of things. You want to look at how you'll use the resources that are around you and your mission statement. You know, you want to look at, and this really gets into strategies. Okay, and when you can develop the ways you'll use resources, that goes down to your computers, your tablets, your phones, you know, mechanical ways of doing things, even maybe how you order your food. Okay, will we save gas and trips to the supermarket by having food delivered? Will we grow certain things that we like to use often? So forth and so on. Will we use the computers around us for commerce? How many televisions maybe will be in the home? Things like that. And that will help you to really keep yourself focused and really help you to monitor the expenditure of your energetic resource, your energy units. We spoke about energy units, and I think might have been last strong so when we spoke about the solar aspects of things. So you also want to look at, of course, the calculations that sustain what it is that you are, your existence, the calculations that sustain your family, the calculations that sustain your organization. Okay, and these may be something that you decide to bullet point, like the 42 declarations of Ma'at. Those may be the undergirding of how you see the world and how you engage with the world. And that will also help you. Sometimes it's best to start there because that will help you to answer the questions from what I expressed previously. Okay, so one of the things that you want to look at is when you're establishing a mission statement, it's not a 5-minute thing. You should notice I just mentioned a few things that you want to kind of keep in mind. And even though your mission statement may only be 2 paragraphs, so you might have to figure out, well, how do I get all of that into 1 or 2 paragraphs? Okay, or, you know, half a page, because it's got to be something that, for the most part, that you can memorize. So that's what really takes time to sit down, and that's when you begin to prioritize and determine, well, maybe some things are not as important, or maybe when I get to the root, grasping the root, when I get to the root of certain concepts, subsequently, other things will be handled by default. Okay, but that will really help you again to focus, prioritize, and start to uncover your framework and methodology for uncovering your life purpose. You see, and you want to make sure that even in your mission statement that you use words that inspire you. You know, you might say things like, I'm very interested in learning about where I fit into my community. You could say that, or you could say, I have a keen interest in uncovering my divine role and sacred position in my community. Okay? Because when you use certain words that are more luminous, you know, or they uncover, or they turn on light bulbs, what it does is it drops a poetic seed in your mind that really becomes a seed that can allow you and help you to bear the fruit of a more radiant reality. Okay, so that's something you want to do. And of course, like I always say, you know, you're going to use colorful verbs and things like that, but, you know, don't exclude your visions from it. You know, some people call those dreams. I don't like to use dreams too much because dreams are pretty much for children, but your dreams or your visions, don't exclude that. And they may seem large, but if it's something that you're programming yourself with every day, you're reading that mission statement, or it's at least in your periphery and you can see it, then what's going to happen is that you're going to start moving and operating in the world in a fashion that really brings that about. You'll find your behaviors will change, again, by default, because you've surrounded yourself with the notions and tenets that you hold dear. I would also strongly encourage you, when you write said mission statement, that it has a tone of action created with it. Okay? Now, whenever you're creating an action plan, whereas in a mission statement, you may say, most words may start off with we are or I am. Okay, because what you're really, with a mission statement, you're really speaking to your positioning. You know, or you may say, let's say we're speaking about the ANU family. The ANU family is a collective of. So it's the is, the bees, we are, you know, and usually it'll be a is a. You know, let's say if your last name is Infume. The Infume family is a. It's always going to be a is. I am an individual who is set on the moves of. I am an individual who da 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 da. And maybe you might use a word other than individual. Okay. I am an organic soul standing on solid ground. Who? Bo 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 bo. Okay, so it will be the I am, the is, the we are. Now you'll find, just like I spoke to you about credibility in the creed always begins with believe, I believe, or we believe. You'll find with the action statement, the best way to really come up with action is to start your sentences with the word to. Okay, so when you say action statement, and you might say something like, you might use colons and say, our sacred mission is, to serve as custodians for our sacred rights and our faith. Our sacred mission is to make our community elders and children feel and know that they are loved. So what you'll find is that, again, the two will now create a situation where it calls itself to action. Okay, because you remember what comes after a to is typically a verb. Okay, so you want to utilize, again, certain words that lead you automatically to certain ways of thinking. And the action plan is critical because, of course, you know, I'm going to speak on that on Thunderground Thursdays. The action plan becomes more critical because you have to associate the philosophy, we'll call it, with the plan of action. Because if the philosophy is not associated with the plan of action, then it never becomes a calculation. And of course, we want what we do to become a calculation. Okay? I'll give you a good example. Some time ago, I had a music collective that was under one of the organizations that I had started by the name of Sons of Sankofa, that many of you are familiar with. You remember me from my Sons of Sankofa days, which was some time ago. And we had a mission statement, and the mission statement that I applied was our core purpose is to express authentic music that derives from indigenous sounds and musical formulas, to deliberately integrate metaphysical principles into our orchestration, to create music that focuses on the crown and heart chakras, to infuse ancient African concepts into contemporary music, to create music that is consistent with the indigenous African perception of music, to advance concepts of artists who have embraced the traditional concept of music, such as Coltrane, Marley, Tosh, Fela, Public Enemy, Gil Scott-Heron, The Last Poets, KRS-One, etc., to establish a creative exploration think tank among artists who embrace and live by indigenous principles, to apply the Nguzu Saba into our musical creation and economic ventures, and to establish venues for our youth to create self-affirming and value-centered art. Now, that was an action statement, okay? So under that particular action statement, I had a bunch of different programs that I had established. So because of that particular action statement, I was always very clear on what I was supposed to be doing, when I was supposed to be doing it, and who I was supposed to be doing it for. Okay? So, and with Sons of Sankofa, and these are all, tenets that I remember, the mission statement was, we the keepers of the sacred Sankofa principle pledge our life force to retrieve the indigenous deep thought wisdom of our brilliant legacy with the ancient norms of Ma'at and the Nguzu Saba as our foundational pillars. We will restore Africans in Africa to our traditional greatness. As the custodians of African virtues, values, rituals, and methods for knowing and being, we now affirm ourselves as divine expressions of the universe with the responsibility of awakening and cultivating the African genius within the African family, throughout the African diaspora and our mother continent. So, because not only did I keep that pledge near, which later became the ANU pledge for the children, when I teach the youth classes, one of the things that the children have to do is memorize that pledge. So that's why I have it, because not only do I have to teach it, but then it comes back to me and I got to grade it. Did you get it right? Did you say it with conviction? So forth and so on. But you notice that mission statement speaks about the we are, what we are. And even though there is some degree of what we do, but it's more what we are, who we represent, the values and the virtues that we bring in this moment. But the two speaks to something different. Again, speaks to that action. So you want to be able to do this not only for yourself, but again, for your family. Very critical. And even if you're still in the process of establishing a family, if it's just you and your children and you don't have a mate, if it's just you, okay, even children who are listening, because I have youth listeners as well, establish your mission statement early, so that way when you start encountering the world, interacting with the world, you'll be clear on what your primary essentials are always to be. You'll be very clear on what role you're always supposed to serve, no matter what environment you're in. For instance, when you intermingle with certain people, when they get amongst you, they're always clear on who the supervisor should be, even if they're not the supervisor. They're always clear that they're supposed to be in positions of leadership. They're supposed to be in charge, whether they're qualified to do so or not. And because they take that stern position, regardless of how people feel about them, they usually end up being supervisors and managers. Okay. So when you establish those principles early on, when you establish the principles of, again, how you will pursue your economic ventures, how you engage in commerce, how you will cultivate relationships amongst people. When you establish that early on and you write it out with your hand, use your hand to write it, not type it. Write it out first, because it enacts different synapses in the brain when you actually write. It's a different intelligence that comes along with that. So, and you make it more real, of course. So when you write it out and you say it and speak to it as you're writing it, it becomes more real. Then, of course, you could type it up, print it out, put borders around it and clip art, whatever you want to do to hook it up. But, you want to establish that action plan and that mission plan ASAP. That's what this show is about. Action. But what lies underneath the action plan is a mission statement. And once the individual has a mission statement, the individual can now move towards wholeness and uncovering life purpose in a much better way. Because once you're clear on how you're going to function through the world and the set of values and norms that you're going to use to judge your every action, you'll be surprised how much easier it will be to accept the call of your life purpose. And when you come in front of someone like me for a reading or a consultation, and I tell you or lead you towards it, you won't be so scared, because you're used to striving towards higher values and higher understanding. Okay, that has been our segment. And make sure, again, December 27th, I'll be at Black and Nobel in Philadelphia. Make sure you check that out. Also, for those of you interested in joining our new spiritual training, I'm getting ready to transition over from Udemy. Self-sufficiency is in full effect. And I know some of you have had trouble logging in, I've been hearing. You want to contact Udemy for that. Again, but that's one of the reasons why we're getting off that platform. And we have some new things coming as well. We got another show coming. So you're going to be hearing a little bit more of me, if you can stand it. You're going to be hearing a little bit more of me on the airwaves. And we have some new shows coming up. We're modifying some of the shows that we currently have as well. So in my opinion, it's an exciting time. And of course, I'm just fulfilling the tenets and the framework of my mission statement. All right. So until next time, I'm Yuya. Peace. If you're ready to go to war for it.